What up, Marsh Pod? Two things happened over the weekend and week plus that one of them didn't fly under the radar and one of them did, but both of them say a lot, or could potentially say a lot, about the challenges that two teams sitting at the top of SimWorld Hoops still have. So two things happened. One of them very recently regarding the H-Town Hoopers, and a second thing that happened sort of recently, but more specifically is you pull back over the past week. I think it initially came out, though, wasn't really reported on May 18th, and that was regarding the Bay Area Breakers. I want to start there. So over the weekend, comes out Xavier Pope is leaving Bay Area. This has been a move in the works for about a week between Xavier Pope and the organization. Pope had told the team a week ago he was leaving. His father had got a job in Germany. So he's leaving. He's gone. His last game was last week. And as part of that, he also has said that if he's able to come back, there's only one team that he wants to play for, and that's Bay Area, but that's obviously family dependent. So the good news is Bay Area is not losing somebody potentially forever, but they are most certainly losing somebody. That's the bad news. The other piece of bad news that didn't quite get reported, and this is, I think, what underscores the challenges that Coach Pope has in a roster that's very deep, is that Royce Anderson, in a conversation with Hoops Hype's Big Bob, said that he's very seriously considering leaving the organization this summer. Lack of touches, lack of playing time. He's kind of been, Royce Anderson's been moved in and out of the starting lineup by Coach Pope. But you talk to Coach Pope and he's honest. He says, look, I'm open with these changes. I am transparent with why I'm doing things. And in Royce's case, he was kind of fluctuating back and forth. Now, this latest move from Xavier Pope leaving will open up the opportunity for Royce Anderson to be featured more in the offense. Obviously, Xavier Pope was a big part of that team, but Royce Anderson now will likely have to shoulder a larger offensive load along with Caden Shipp and Trey Hyman. But this is the challenge that Bay Area has, and it was a challenge that we've talked about since the beginning of the season. They have so much talent that it can almost be detrimental, especially because people are competitive inherently, especially so if you're involved in any sporting event such as SimWorld Hoops. Guys want the opportunity to showcase their ability compared to the guy across from them. And especially when you're at this age, 16, 17 years old, where you're not only competing for, proving yourself compared to the man across from you, but you're also now trying to set the stage for proving yourself to people paying attention to you for 2 years, 4 years, 5 years down the line as you try to legitimately build a career off of a game that you love. So the competitiveness should be there. You should want to see guys that want to get more touches, but it can be difficult, especially at this age, not only because of the age, but also because of the other factors that go into amateur and especially the AAU high school age sports, is that you need to showcase yourself as much as you can. And on a team like Bay Area, it can be challenging to do that because there are so many cooks in the kitchen. They continue to add pieces. They've looked really good. They're one of the better teams in SimWorld Hoops. But the problem is that they are so deep that getting every single player to be on the same page is not going to be easy. So the first off is the credit to Coach Pope, but at the same time, you have to understand the challenge. And so in this issue with Royce Anderson, I don't think this is a sky is falling, the culture is lost of Bay Area that Coach Pope has, I think, successfully developed, that he's certainly tried to develop. But you can see the challenge that it emits when there are guys that may or may not want to necessarily be there. Now, the sense that I've gotten from the organization is that they do believe Royce Anderson will return this summer. They want him to return around this offseason. They want him to return this offseason. They don't want him to go anywhere else. But I think there's reason to believe that as confident as that organization can be, there's going to be some reason for skepticism until that order is re-signed. Whatever that looks like, whether that's him tipping off at the start of next season, Royce Anderson on the roster, whether that's him coming out and saying, I want to be here next year, whatever it is, until that moment comes, there's going to be skepticism around it. Every single move is going to be highlighted. That's going to be a challenge. It's going to be a challenge worth watching, but it's going to be a major challenge for Coach Pope in what has been, I wouldn't call it a turbulent season, but I would say it's perhaps been more challenging than folks would have expected for it to be at the beginning of the year. This was a team that looks like the best team in SimWorld Hoops right away. They had a phenomenal summer, and I think I said it at the beginning of the year, the challenge for this team was not going to be the on-court product. It was going to be how Coach Pope managed it, how he took a team that won 5 tournaments during the summer. Royce Anderson won 6. And how do you get that to mesh as a coherent seasonal team? That was going to be a challenge, and it's proven to be that. And now when you have a guy like Royce Anderson who's proven that he can be malleable in different situations as he did over the summer, but also you're kind of tossing him around because of that, that's not an easy fix. That can be challenging for somebody to not know what their role is day by day, game by game, week by week. It's going to be an uphill battle. I don't think that's an exaggeration. This organization feels that they are very confident that he's going to return. Whether he ends up returning or not is up in the air. But it's the first of 2 items in the last week that were a little eye-opening considering the success. The second one being H-Town Hoopers and Coach Fox, and the reports that Coach Fox has been incommunicable, non-communicative, poorly communicative, however you want to phrase it, with a team that had an incredible comeback over Oceana. And it makes you wonder exactly who's captaining the ship in Houston. Because the win against Oceana, if you were to just look at it, and truthfully, the wins that this team has had throughout the season, in terms of constantly coming back, an outsider's view would look at that and say, this is a team that's well coached. They've got a voice in the locker room that says, we stay the course, we survive runs, the Oceana game being no different. We say, you look at this team and say, look, we gave up a run, that's fine. That this isn't over, it's a 4 quarters game. Basketball is a game of runs. They did theirs, we're going to get ours. That avalanche on our part is going to come, and it did. It came in the second half when they rallied back from down by as many as 10, and they got big buckets. Keaton Carter with the game-tying 3, and just a dominant performance from the player of the week, Tyrell Thompson. Then it comes out that this team, the coach isn't really there. That's challenging. That's concerning. It's not concerning because the players know how to put themselves in that position, but it's concerning because you wonder if the driver's asleep at the wheel, does the wrong rotation get made? Does the wrong adjustment get made? Does the wrong offensive or defensive game plan get made? Or does none of the above get made and that's just as bad? That is the reality that's staring down the H-Town Hoopers right now. They are one of the best teams in SimWorld Hoops. They have a legitimate argument to being the best team. And they're coming off a season last year as Houston, where obviously a much different roster, but a group that was so poorly organized that the good talent that existed there never came to fruition. Success never came until the national tournament in which they pulled some upsets. Yet you flip the script, Coach Fox builds a roster that's much more cohesive, yet at the end of the day, it seems as if the problems that plagued them, an inattentive driver at the wheel, is back. That's concerning when you look at the grand landscape of the top of this league. And you have 2 teams, and certainly I'm sure there are issues underneath the covers that we don't know about for some of these other top organizations. But you look at 2 teams, one of which H-Town, the other which Bay Area. They're both facing pretty substantial blocks in the road. One of them is a player leaving and a second that may want out at the end of this season. Both of those things can poison and tarnish a locker room. And the other one is a coach that's just not there at all. And it's two completely opposite coaching, I don't want to call it philosophies, but coaching presence. Let's go with that. Where H-Town doesn't have any, and they're surviving in spite of it. Bay Area has issues aplenty with a coach that's got his finger on the pulse of that team, and they're thriving. I don't know if that's because of all the departures, but it's most certainly because of the coach's presence within that team and within that locker room. So as these issues continue to boil, it's not unrealistic to consider that they may end up boiling over. On one hand, you have to feel confident that you have the right person in place. Meanwhile, on the other spot, you might wonder if anyone's in place. Talk to you Thursday.